When we think of the Golden Age of Piracy, we picture a life of unrestricted autonomy. We imagine swashbuckling heroes outrunning the Royal Navy, burying chests of gold, and clashing swords on the decks of magnificent galleons. The historical reality of 18th century piracy looks entirely different. Most crews spent very little time fighting naval armadas. Instead, their daily existence was a grinding, desperate struggle for survival against the ship itself. Looking at this 1717 map of the West Indies, we see a vast, unforgiving expanse of ocean. To understand what it costs to operate in these waters, we must examine a single, agonizing 24-hour cycle at sea. If we strip away the romanticized myths of parrots and peglegs, we are left staring directly at the brutal biological and psychological toll required to survive just one day. Your day begins wedged into a 4-inch wooden shelf below deck. The ceiling is inches from your face. The air is a heavy blend of sweat and damp, rotting wood, and you share your sleeping space with hundreds of highly motivated lice and a permanent colony of rats. There is no morning shower. You rinse your face in the open ocean, coating your skin in sticky, freezing salt water that leaves you feeling dirtier than before. For dental hygiene, you might chew on a frayed twig or a piece of old, tar-soaked rigging rope. Then comes breakfast. The ship's cook hands you your ration, a dense block of baked flour and water known as hardtack, paired with a tin cup of stagnant water from the ship's hold. This biscuit is baked until all moisture is gone, leaving it with the exact consistency of a paving stone. If you tap it against a table, it doesn't break. You simply chew on this rock, careful not to crack your teeth, and try to ignore the live weevils burrowed inside that act as an accidental protein source. To wash down the dry biscuit, you rely on water stored for months in unwashed wooden barrels. It pours out as a brackish, brown liquid, topped with a film of algae and whatever insects manage to drown in it. Simply acquiring calories and hydration on a pirate ship meant forcing your immune system through a daily gauntlet of foodborne illnesses, severe malnutrition, and the constant threat of broken teeth. With breakfast over, the fantasy of a lawless, carefree life on the ocean vanishes into the reality of unending manual labor. You spend hours swabbing the decks with a corrosive mixture of salt water and homemade lard soap. If you aren't scrubbing, you are climbing dozens of feet up the ship's frayed rigging to adjust sails, relying entirely on your own grip strength with zero safety equipment to catch you if the ship violently rolls. As you work, the Caribbean sun beats down relentlessly. Without any UV protection or shade, your skin quickly burns, blisters, and crusts over with sea salt, accelerating your dehydration while you perform heavy lifting in the heat. Then, the crew gets called for cannon practice. 18th century artillery pieces were incredibly heavy, patched with rusted iron, and notoriously temperamental. Loading one required ramming in highly volatile black powder, followed by a tight wad, and then the heavy iron shot. This sequence had to be packed perfectly. If the powder was fouled or the timing was off, the cannon could simply refuse to fire, or worse, explode backward into the gunner. Between the blistering sun and volatile artillery, a pirate's own ship and environment often proved deadlier than any enemy combatant. As the sun sets, the heat and exhaustion give way to intense psychological strain. Boredom and cramped quarters turn minor annoyances into rampant paranoia, and the crew begins squabbling over missing socks, imagined slights, or secret stashes of food. If an argument crosses the line into a real crime, like stealing from the communal rum supply, pirate justice is swift and final. There are no lawyers or trials. The captain makes a ruling, and the thief is simply picked up and thrown overboard to drown. The only thing that unites the crew is external danger. A sudden shout from the lookout draws every eye to a dark smudge on the horizon, raising the terrifying possibility of an approaching Navy sloop or a rival pirate gang. The captain barks orders, cannons are loaded, and flags are raised. But the ultimate goal of all this aggressive posturing is to actually avoid a fight. If the other ship turns away, the pirates cheer, not because they won a battle, but because they survived another day without risking their ship or their lives. The adrenaline fades, leaving only the night watch. Standing alone on the deck in the total darkness, surrounded by an infinite, churning ocean, the sense of isolation is overwhelming. Every creak of wood or splash in the dark plays tricks on the mind. In this psychological pressure cooker, every single crewmate is a potential threat, and the endless water surrounding the hull is a looming, deadly void, waiting for a single mistake. Over weeks and months, the compounding effect of these 24-hour cycles devastated the human body. The chronic malnutrition, lack of sleep, and constant physical trauma left most crews battered and scarred. Historical pirates survived as unhygienic endurance athletes, men whose primary skill was an incredible tolerance for immense long-term squalor. Looking at this monochromatic map, it's clear just how vast and isolated these territories were. The men navigating this expanse weren't following whimsical treasure maps to chests of gold. They were outcasts clinging to splintering wood, fighting to survive the unforgiving Caribbean environment. The romanticized pirate myth we enjoy today is a luxury of modern distance. For the men who actually lived it, true freedom on the seas came at the cost of unimaginable, mundane daily suffering.